1,000-year-old British royal family business has been quite successful, to say the least, for the royals, as well as for just the general economy of the UK.
Yeah, according to Brand Finance, last year, the Monarchy cost the UK government £500 million. That's about 571 million US dollars. So here's a tally of the sovereign spending last year. 57% for property maintenance, 24% for staffing their residences, 4% was spent on travel, and 3% on utilities. And according to the sovereign grant report, another 12% was spent on other things like security. The Monarchy's brand pours around 2.5 billion British pounds into the UK's economy, which comes to around $2.86 billion. But the British royals aren't flush with cash. It's a little bit more complicated than that.
Okay, so let's break it down. Here to help explain the assets of the royals. At the end of the day, it's a business. So we welcome to the show Hilary Fordwich, royal watcher, who also happens to be a pretty astute businesswoman herself. So thanks for giving us some time. We appreciate it, Hilary.
You're welcome, Rob. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning.
Again, some of the constitutional monarchy thing is obviously very different than America, and we try to get our head around it because it's so different than how we govern ourselves here. But in broad strokes, just explain what the royals, what they help bring in, and then what they take in for themselves.
Yes, Rob. Well, actually, it's described usually as a royal headache to describe it. But if we all have patience here, my analogy always is, well, first of all, you're right when you said earlier, it's like a business, but it's only a mid-sized business, Rob. And don't forget, they're not even listed by the Financial Times in terms of the top 250 most wealthy British people. So they're not really wealthy. And think about this. This is my analogy. Think about living in a house where you can't sell your house. You can't sell any of the things in it. You didn't choose them. You may like them. You may not want them, but they're there and they're yours. So now to break it down seriously. Okay, so the Crown Estate are lands and basically properties that the royal family, a multi-billion-dollar, about 19, almost $20 billion property portfolio. But it's not private property, as I just mentioned. There's about the profits of it, only about 25% go actually to the royal family. That's referred to as the sovereign grant. And you're showing up there the Duchy of Cornwall and the Duchy of Lancaster. People always ask me, Duchy of Lancaster and Cornwall, what exactly is a duchy? Well, a duchy is actually a sort of a royal term for lands and ownings, lands and estates in the country. So what do? They generate revenue. They're private estates, some of them in Cornwall. That was set up by Edward III in 1337, and that its management passes from King Charles III to his son now, Prince William, who's now the Prince of Wales. But as I mentioned, don't forget those monies that are even generated, they only receive 25% of the revenue. They don't even get to spend it on themselves. What do they spend it on? I always say jobs, jobs, and jobs. They are funding all of the state visits, of course. They fund the households. They fund the staffs of those households. The only thing that the sovereign grant actually doesn't fund is the cost of security. But again, who is security? What is security? It is jobs, jobs, and jobs.
Wow, that is an interesting breakdown. So I think we have this idea and this picture of, a royal family has to make money, right?
They're not starving, though. They're all financially okay.
Oh, yes.
William's not going to have to work at a Walmart anytime soon to make ends meet.
Okay. That's right. But remember, our billionaires in America certainly live a lot better lives because they get to choose what they want to do, they go where they want to do, and everything else. Could you imagine being scrutinized every single day? And something you mentioned earlier, Rob, think about this. You said about the 4.1 billion people around the world watch that funeral. How would anybody else like to grieve in public like that? And something that's very difficult to calculate, and I've never read any analysis on this. Coca-Cola, about 30, it's actually on the balance sheet, 30% of the brand asset is actually the value of the brand of Coca-Cola. What is the brand? Nobody ever can do a cost-benefit analysis because you mentioned about the eyes of the world, and we know 4.1 billion, but what about the way people feel about the UK now? What about the pride of the British? Tell me what it costs to generate that pride. I'll tell you that when people are asked, do they want to have the monarchy, and they're shown the cost. And there are some people, let's admit, that don't anymore. They're told then the cost per person per year. For our viewers, you know what that costs the average British person per year? The equivalent of $1.50.
Wow. Okay. So in addition to making public appearances, how else do the royals pump money into the economy?
Yes, well, and I mentioned about the brand value there, Alex. So tourism-wise, let's go to a very specific example. It is estimated that over half of all tourism from the US and from Canada, of half the revenue from tourism is generated by visits from Americans and Canadians to royal locations. In fact, the Tower of London was the #1 destination of all Americans and Canadians to the UK. So part of it is tourism, and then part of it also, don't forget, when you see what the royals are doing in those different locations, the Queen actually touched 1/3 of all British subjects either visually seeing her or actually being in her presence. So when those entourages go to those locations, I mean, how many Americans would know about Windsor or Sandringham? How many Americans would even know about that if they didn't see it on television? So again, it's incalculable, Alex, how that money helps the British economy.
And do they pay taxes?
Yes. In 1992, many of us might remember when Windsor Castle famously, sadly, went up in flames. It was the Queen referred that to as the Annus Horribilis. It was actually the year that, you know, the separations and all the separations of the then Princess of Wales, Diana and Charles, and then the Duke of York and the Duchess of York, known as Fergie, colloquially known as Fergie. But when Windsor Castle went up in flames, the British government was stepping in to pick up the costs of that. Of course, that was going to go back to the taxpayers, and it was a tough time economically. That's when the Queen started paying an income tax. But as I mentioned, remember, those Crown estates, all that income, you could consider that 75% tax rate, because that money doesn't go into the hands of the royal family. They only receive 25%. So for all of our audience, imagine being in a 75% tax bracket, because these lands have been in their families' hands, of course, like I mentioned, since 1337.
And they couldn't sell that property, right?
Right.
The king couldn't go, you know what, enough of this, I'm moving to Boca. Sell this for a couple of billion. Right? I mean...
No. And also, Rob, imagine, I don't know where you live or Alex lives or our audience lives, but could you imagine not choosing anything in your home? Like, I don't like that painting. Oh, I want to sell that. No, you have no choice about anything.
Gotcha. All right, so fundamentally, it's about branding.
Yeah.
It's about tourism. They're all wealthy by normal people standards. They may not be Bezos wealthy, but they're living a comfortable life, and it's not exactly a normal job. They're not flipping the flies or flipping the burgers, frying the fries, cleaning the hotel room. So it's not a bad life. Period.
Well, it's certainly not a bad life. I will say this, though. People always say, well, people that are born into it totally and utterly agree, and with your point. But remember, J.K. Rowling was so poor. She used to go to a cafe to write Harry Potter because she was that poor, because she couldn't afford to heat her apartment. And she was ranked the wealthiest woman and is far wealthier than the royal family. And she gets to choose everything she does and goes where she wants, like all the other billionaires. They choose how they live and what they want to do.
All right, Hilary Fordwich, Royal Watcher, always good to have you. Thanks for coming on again.
Pleasure.
All right, with crime rising in big